Welcome back, everybody. We're diving into a case today that I find pretty fascinating. It's the case of Bobby Buckner. Bobby claims that he was wrongfully convicted in Texas,
Mm-hmm.
and he is fighting for his release. But here's a kicker. He's doing it all from prison
Wow.
through a blog
That's pretty amazing.
called Free Bobby Buckner.
Yeah, that raises a lot of interesting questions. Like, how does someone even maintain a blog from prison? What kind of access does he have to the internet and resources? And really, how effective is it in bringing attention to his case?
Right. It makes you think. So for this deep dive, we're focusing entirely on Bobby's blog, and there's a lot to cover. So I think the best place to start is with his December 9th post, which is titled Justice Denied.
Yeah, that's a pretty powerful title. And in that post, he's really expressing a lot of frustration with a recent decision from the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals. They denied his application for a writ of habeas corpus. And he used this post not only to kind of vent his frustrations, but also to educate people about what a writ of habeas corpus even is.
Yes. I was surprised by how in-depth he got. Like, he really breaks down these complex legal concepts in a way that anyone can understand. He even cites relevant sections of the Texas legal code.
Yeah, it's pretty unusual to see that level of detail from someone in his position. It makes you wonder what kind of legal resources he has available to him in prison.
Right. It definitely adds to the intrigue.
Mm-hmm.
So for our listeners who might not be familiar with all this legal jargon, what exactly is a writ of habeas corpus?
So basically, it's a legal mechanism that allows someone to challenge their imprisonment if they believe they're being held unlawfully. So in Bobby's case, he's arguing that his conviction was wrong and that he should be released.
And what about the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals? What's their role in all of this?
Well, they're the highest court in Texas for criminal cases. So they're the final stop for people like Bobby who are trying to appeal their convictions. And from what I've read, they have a reputation for being pretty tough on habeas corpus petitions. So the fact that they denied Bobby's application suggests that they saw something in the state's case against him.
That makes his fight even more difficult, doesn't it?
Mm.
But he doesn't end his post on a note of despair. Instead, he kind of flips the script and issues this call to action. He urges his supporters to share his story, to visit his website, freebobby.org, and to advocate for criminal justice reform.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. It shows how determined he is to fight for his freedom. And he's not just asking for help, he's actively trying to engage people and educate them about the legal system. It's a really smart strategy.
It is. So besides this justice denied post, what else can we find on Bobby's blog?
Well, he's got this series called The Way I See It, and it seems like he's going to be sharing his perspective on different aspects of his case. We don't know exactly what those posts will entail yet, but it could give us some valuable insight into his personal experiences and his understanding of the events that led to his conviction.
Yes, I'm really curious to see where that goes. It's like getting a firsthand account of his journey through the legal system. And then there's his website, freebobby.org. He mentions it in pretty much every post.
Yeah. He's definitely trying to drive traffic to that site. It probably has more detailed information about his case, legal documents, court records, that kind of thing.
Maybe even some personal appeals directly from Bobby. We'll have to check it out. But there's one more thing on his blog that immediately caught my eye. It's a video titled, Breaking News: Innocent Man Denied Justice in Texas. And it's from a news outlet called TX1 News.
TX1 News. I'm not familiar with them. What kind of reputation do they have?
I don't know either. That's something we'll have to investigate. But the title alone is pretty bold. Innocent Man Denied Justice. It definitely makes you wonder what kind of breaking news this could be.
Right. Is it new evidence? A commentary on the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals decision? We're going to have to watch it and find out.
Exactly. And we'll definitely be discussing this video in more detail later on. But first, let's dive into Bobby's The Way I See It series. What do you think we might learn from his personal account, and how could it potentially impact our understanding of this case?
Well, I think it could give us a better sense of who Bobby is as a person, what his motivations are, how he sees the world. It could help us connect with him on a human level, which is really important when you're dealing with something as abstract and complex as the legal system.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's easy to get lost in the legalese and the procedural details. But at the end of the day, this is about a man who's fighting for his freedom. And hearing his story in his own words could be really powerful.
Absolutely. I think it could also shed some light on the events that led to his conviction. Maybe he'll offer a different perspective on the evidence that was presented against him, or maybe he'll share details about his experience in prison and how it's affected him.
Right. It could really help us understand the human cost of wrongful convictions, and it could make us question whether the system is truly serving justice.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think it also raises the question of How much weight should we give to a personal account? Is Bobby a reliable narrator? Or is he trying to manipulate us with his story?
That's a good point.
Hmm.
I mean, we have to remember that he's obviously biased. He wants us to believe he's innocent.
Right.
But we can't just dismiss his perspective entirely, can we?
Right. Exactly. It's a delicate balance. We need to be critical of what he's saying, but we also need to be open to the possibility that he's telling the truth.
And that's why I'm so interested in seeing what else we can find on his website, freebobby.org. He keeps mentioning it in his posts, so I'm assuming there's a lot of information there that he wants us to see.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a ton of stuff there. Legal documents, court transcripts, maybe even witness testimonies.
It could be like a virtual evidence locker.
Exactly. And it could give us a much more comprehensive view of the case than we're getting from just his blog.
Okay, so we've got Bobby's blog, his The Way I See It series, and his website, freebobby.org. But I keep coming back to that breaking news video from TX1 News.
Me too. I'm really curious about that.
I did a little digging, and I couldn't find much information about TX1 News.
But
Looks like they're a pretty small independent outlet, based in Texas, of course.
That's interesting. Makes you wonder what kind of resources they have and what their angle is on this story.
Exactly. Are they going to present a balanced view of the case, or are they going to be completely on Bobby's side?
Well, I guess we'll just have to watch and see. But I'm definitely intrigued.
Me too. And I think it's important to remember that whatever we see in that video, it's just one piece of the puzzle. We need to consider all the information we've gathered from Bobby's blog, his website, and any other sources we can find.
Right. And we need to be critical of everything. We need to ask ourselves who's telling the story, what their motivations are, and whether we can trust what they're saying.
Exactly. It's like being a detective, you know? You got to follow the evidence wherever it leads. And sometimes the truth is a lot more complicated than it appears on the surface.
Yeah, that's the truth. I'm starting to get the feeling that this case is full of twists and turns.
Well, let's get ready for another one, because it's time to watch that breaking news video. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right, here we go. Wow. Okay, so we just watched that TX1 News report.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I'm a little conflicted.
Yeah, it's definitely not what I was expecting.
Me neither. I mean, they definitely seem to believe that Bobby's innocent, and they presented some pretty shocking accusations about the prosecutor in his case.
Right. They claim that she has a history of misconduct and that she's been known to withhold evidence and coerce witnesses.
Yeah, and they even showed an interview with someone claiming to be an ex-colleague of hers, who basically said that she's more concerned with winning than with justice.
It's a pretty serious allegation, but it's all coming from anonymous sources.
Right.
We don't actually see this ex-colleague's face or hear their real name.
That's right. And the whole video just felt, I don't know, a little sensationalized.
Yeah, it did. There was a lot of dramatic music and slow-motion close-ups on Bobby's face.
And they kept using phrases like corrupt system and denied justice.
It almost felt like a true crime documentary or something.
Right. Not really a news report.
Exactly. Which makes me wonder about their motives. I mean, are they genuinely trying to help Bobby? Or are they just trying to exploit his story for views and clicks?
I don't know. It's hard to say. But I do think it raises some important questions about the way we consume information these days, especially when it comes to these kind of emotionally charged stories.
Absolutely. We're bombarded with so much content from so many different sources, and it's not always easy to tell what's real and what's not, what's fact and what's opinion.
Right. We have to be so careful not to just accept everything we see or hear at face value. We have to be critical. We have to ask questions. We have to do our own research.
And we have to be aware of our own biases, too.
Yeah.
You know, it's easy to get swept up in a story if it confirms our existing beliefs, but that doesn't mean it's true.
So where does this leave us with Bobby's case? We've explored his blog, his website, and now this breaking news report. And I still feel like we're no closer to the truth.
I agree, but I think we've learned a lot about the complexities of the legal system, the challenges of seeking justice, and the importance of critical thinking.
And I think we've also learned a lot about the power of storytelling. Bobby's blog has given him a platform to share his perspective and to connect with people all over the world.
Right. And who knows, maybe that will ultimately make a difference in his case. Maybe it will help him find the evidence he needs to prove his innocence. Or maybe it will just bring him some comfort and support during this incredibly difficult time.
I hope so. But regardless of the outcome of his case, I think Bobby's story has taught us all a valuable lesson.
What's that?
That we can't take our freedom for granted, and that we have to fight for justice for ourselves and for others, even when it seems impossible.
That's a powerful message. And I think it's one that we all need to hear. So what do you say? Should we take a break from this deep dive and come back to it later, maybe when there's more information available?
I think that's a good idea. I think we all need a little time to process everything we've learned and to think about what we can do to make a difference in the fight for justice.
Sounds good to me.
Until next time, then.
Until next time.
Thanks for listening, everyone. And thanks for joining us on this deep dive.